One of the immensely important doctrines that came to the fore as a result of the Nicene Creed, which we learned about last time, was what is called the Aseity of God. Now, the Aseity of God is really a vision of God in His eternal state. God beyond history, beyond creation, the God who is from everlasting to everlasting. Now, Aseity is a Latin word, and everyone loves a little bit of Latin. Aseity means from selfness or of selfness. A means from or of, se means self, and ity means ness, so it means of selfness. So aseity really means that God is not contingent. No one has made God. God didn't even make himself. That's a sort of impossible paradox. But God has always been. God tells us He is from everlasting to everlasting. So it's not that God made Himself or somebody else made God, but God is forever fully Himself as Father and Son and Holy Spirit. And He is not contingent, He's not dependent. God is utterly full in His own being. The eternality of God is boundless. Now this is a doctrine that is little known or understood or really talked about in the church, but it is absolutely essential to proper theology. Because what it does is it lets us understand that in the fullness of God's life, God is joyfully and gloriously and forever delighted in His own perfections. That the Father and the Son and the Spirit are forever fully joyful and peaceful, mediating their love and their beauty to each other and from each other and in themselves. And so there's this wonderful sense of God being absolutely independent of everything. Now here's why this is important. It means that God created not out of need. Sometimes there's a trivial theology that might tell us, well, God was lonely and He wanted something to do, or He was bored, or He wanted, somebody to occupy His time, and so He comes up with creation. That's not so. God does not create out of a need or out of a deprivation or even out of any sort of necessity. God creates completely out of excess, out of the fullness and the abundance of His life, so that there is no necessity for creation. Now this is good news, because if God needed creation, it would mean that there was some sort of deprivation within God that only creation could meet. And it would mean that God is dependent upon creation for something that He can't give or know for Himself, which is false theology. God is all in all. There's a fullness to God that does not need creation to make up for any deficits. It also then means that we are loved not conditionally but unconditionally. That there is not terms and conditions upon creation and therefore the love for creation, but it is the lavish, gracious overflow of God's life that allows creation to be and then calls us to experience God in the midst of that. So here's where this becomes important on a pastoral level, on our lives as we interact with God and with each other. It means that the only person or the only thing in all of existence that is actually whole is God. The concept of wholeness these days is actually quite prevalent. Pastorally, I've had many conversations with people where they would say something along the lines of, I just want to feel whole, I just want to be whole, I want to know what it's like to be whole. And we know what that means, but here's the problem with that, is that as human beings, we cannot really know wholeness. We are contingent, we are dependent, we are incomplete, we are absolutely reliant upon God. And there's never a place or time in our lives, certainly in this history, where we are whole. In other words, we don't need anything else, we have it all together and we're the complete package. God is the only one who is whole. In other words, He lacks nothing. We, on the other hand, lack many things and need to grow into things day after day. So here's the key to this for our lives, is that life is not about being whole, life is about becoming more. It's about becoming more intimate with God, becoming more aware of ourselves, of creation, of community, society, of church, faith, love, truth. It's becoming more. Because we are incomplete, we have a deficit. And so when we engage with that in a positive way, not negatively or in a self-defeating way, but when we see that that's actually the point, then we can lean in. And so then we lean into God, who is whole, so that we can become more. And so this goes all the way back to the doctrine of Aseity, where the Trinity, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, are absolutely and completely whole, you could say. There is no deficit, no deprivation, nothing lacking within God. However, there is much lacking throughout creation and within our lives. And therefore we lean towards God to know more. And certainly in this creation, and then into the new creation, God takes it to another place and does more than we can ask or imagine. But for now, it's not about being whole, it's about becoming more and leaning into the fullness and the beauty and the generosity of God's life. So as you consider these things and lean into that, may you experience a little bit of becoming more. Peace.